vanished from our town when he found out about my desire of an open relationship. Have you ever felt the urge to do something that was always on your mind and let loose? Well, letting yourself go and you're letting your mind take control without discipline and do what you've always wanted to do. Well, I had thought I was making myself feel alive again. I wanted to have that feeling that everyone has, a feeling of being free again. I wanted to remind myself that you can also let loose or have fun while you are married. Have you ever shared your deepest desires with someone, only to have them disappear from your life? Imagine telling someone you love that you want a future together, but with the freedom to explore connections with others. That's what happened to me. I opened up about my need for an open relationship, hoping for understanding and acceptance. Instead, he vanished without a trace, leaving me wondering what went wrong. One thing about me is that I always say what I feel, without even care of how you would receive it and what you would do about it, but as long as I have told you what I wanted you to know. But in this case, it was different. I didn't expect him to act the way he did. I had thought that if I open up to him and tell him how I feel, he would understand and somehow sit down with me and discuss the issue at hand in a civil way. Instead, he just packed and left to only God knows where. I just couldn't believe him. I mean, yes, I loved him, but why would he act so childish? I mean, because most people nowadays, especially women, no longer be themselves when they get married. Some lose themselves to a point that they make marriages look like it's a union to someone's true self. Some end up regretting ever getting married because they would no longer be allowed to do things that had made them happy. They become people they are not, which kills most of our married sisters. It does not feel free when you get married. This took a lot of bravery to share, so I only accept advice and not judgments. They call me Veronica Cooper, female 27, and my husband is Mike Andrews, male 37. We first met at a golf club estate. There was a business meeting that they had at the estate while playing gold. I was a waitress for the day. Well, I was studying towards my master's degree in psychology, so I was doing a side job while I was studying so that Elle would be able to make ends meet and be able to pay for my studies. That day, I was assigned to work on the field making sure that the business gurus were well taken care of and they had everything that they needed. So as I was catering for them, I slightly made a mistake. I missed a step, and the drink that I was holding accidentally fell on one of the businessmen's lap. The guy shouted at me and called me stupid and other harsh names. I tried apologizing, but the guy wasn't having it and he was a blazing fire. Mike came to my rescue and spoke with the guy, telling him that it was a mistake and he will pay for the damage that I had done to the guy's golfing short pants. I didn't know what to say, so I just thanked Mike for the rescue. That day was the toughest day in my working history. I felt so belittled, humiliated, embarrassed, and stupid. It's really hard being a waitress because you always have to put a smile on your face, even if you are not feeling well. Or if a customer didn't like what you have served them, then they call you names and stupid. It's really hard working under the term of a customer is always right, even if they are the ones at fault. Some managers end up firing a waitress because of a customer's complaint and telling the manager that your service is bad. It's hard to always try to be calm and keep on smiling even when the situation doesn't allow you. But because you need the job, you have to follow the rules and put your feelings aside. Anyway, as I kept apologizing to the arrogant businessman, Mike told me to stop apologizing and go continue with my work. I won't lie, I was relieved when I was away from that arrogant man. Later on, Mike came to my working station and apologized for how his associate behaved, but I would have to help him clean that man's golfing shorts since I'm the one who missed a step and poured an orange juice on his white golfing shorts. As much as it was going to cost me almost all my salary, but I knew I had to clean up that man's shorts no matter what. Mike then asked him to give him my number so that he can call me when we have to go and clean the golfing short pants. I hesitated at first. I was only 20 years and I think he was 30 at that time. I eventually gave him my number because the guy was going to help me clean the arrogant man's short pants. He called after 2 days, mind you. At that time, I was thinking, how was I going to afford golfing pants? Or how was I going to get money to clean it? I met up with Mike at the mall. The guy bought new golfing short pants for the arrogant man. Since then, we got along. We would chat more through WhatsApp. Mike was a sweet, loving, and caring man who liked being cocky. He was just a breath of fresh air, a best friend, a good advisor, and an awesome lunch dates partner. 2 months after he told me that he couldn't hold himself anymore, he needed someone to grow old with. At first, I didn't understand what he was saying until he asked me to be his girlfriend officially. I was just lost for words. The guy is afforded and has everything that he wants and needs, so why would he want to have a girlfriend as simple as me? So we dated for like 8 months, and I can actually say that it was just everything and more. During those months, he had taken me to meet with his parents. They were such a welcoming and loving family, especially his mother. Oh, that woman is such a sweetheart with a good heart. And not to mention his sister, she was just a breath of fresh air. She had the vibe that I actually needed, and she was my age, which was a bonus. Well, I didn't have any friends, so Mike's sister became the best friend I had ever had. My relationship with Mike was just a bliss, and it was actually what I had been praying for. He was like my answered prayers, not knowing that the guy actually had anger issues and bipolar disorder. Mike would always make sure that I was happy, secured, and had everything that I needed. The guy even paid for tuition fees, imagine, and I will forever be grateful for what he had done to me. Well, since I do not have any family members in Woodlands, Singapore, it was hard for me to take Mike home to my family, but I had introduced him to them via Skype, which helped a lot. After a year, I think Mike proposed and I said yes, but I had my terms and conditions. He got confused when I said that I had terms and conditions, but he listened to me. I actually regret even starting to address my desires to him because I didn't like the outcome of it. It actually made me feel like I had driven the love of my life away because of my greed and desires. I won't lie. I needed what I needed in a relationship. I was still young, so I needed to explore some things. After years of dating, we decided to tie the knot. I was the happiest woman ever. Months went by and I was starting to feel a little bored, especially when my husband is always away on his golfing trips, his part of the Golf Nation tournament. I always get tempted to go out clubbing and doing something crazy and let loose just a bit before I reach my 30s, but I always contain myself and not go out at all. I would discipline myself. My temptation ends being a thought. But there was a time when my husband left for a golfing trip. I could resist the urge of going out with my friends from college. I saw that as the perfect opportunity to break free from the monotony of my married life and have a little fun. So I started by cleaning the house and doing some much-needed grocery shopping. But as the day went on, I found myself feeling more and more restless. I felt the urge of wanting to let loose a little. I needed to open my relationship with Mike, but I didn't know how and where I could start addressing the issue or breaking the news to him. I didn't know how he would react, and I was scared of the outcome. I had so many what-ifs in my head, but I knew I needed to tell him about my desires. After a lot of thought, I decided to call the girl that I was working with. Her name is Prudence, female, 29. Prudence and I were attending the same university, and she is the one who introduced me to the manager of the restaurant and catering company that I was working in. That's how we got along, so I called her and asked her to join me on a date. Luckily, she agreed and told me that she wanted to introduce me to a new restaurant and a chilling spot that had recently opened not far from where we worked. So we agreed to meet in town so that she would take me to that new spot. Little did I know that the girl actually wanted to take me to the club. I didn't ask any questions because I trusted Prudence, and I knew that she wouldn't take me to a place that harms me or gets me in trouble with my husband. I really thought we were just going to eat, have a few drinks, then later on, before the sun sets, we would part ways. But that wasn't the case with Prudence. Later on, Prudence and I met and we had our lunch, then decided to drink while I told her about my desires and how my husband had been absent lately. We drank and ended up enjoying the good music and the vibe. We had a couple of drinks and two guys came to us and asked us to join them. Because of Prudence's forwardness, she accepted the guy's request of joining them when things would get hectic. One of the guys approached me and started giving me compliments. He was very charming and a bit handsome, younger than me, probably 25. Prudence then suddenly said, "Let's move the party elsewhere." But how I wish she didn't say that, but I couldn't predict what was about to happen. I wanted to refuse, but at some point I didn't want to leave Prudence with unknown guys that we had recently known, so I stayed and obeyed. I know that was a stupid move for me because I was married, but that time I had put my marriage life aside and went with the moment. We went to the Orchid Country Club Hotel, which was about 5 kilometers from the restaurant. As we were there drinking with the guys, I started to notice that there's 2 of us and 2 of them, meaning everyone had a partner. I started feeling a little uneasy as I was the only one married amongst these people, and they were so chilled. I won't lie, those guys were funny. The guy who was giving me a compliment came to me as I was gazing at the view outside. He introduced himself as Gary Lawrence, male, 25 or 6, I'm not sure. He had a way of making me feel comfortable. Well, this is when I realized I needed to loosen myself a bit as I was feeling a bit of guilt. We started to talk about life and conspiracies, and we realized we had something in common, and drinks kept on coming. The music kept on playing, and our conversation kept getting deeper, and I found myself drawn to his charming smile and kind eyes. He was just a breath of fresh air. We fell asleep on the couch, cuddling each, and I was grateful that nothing happened to us. At first, I felt a mixture of guilt and excitement that nothing had happened, and I had an opportunity to let loose. I had never done anything like that before, and I wasn't sure if I could ever forgive myself, but nothing happened right. So why feel guilty when nothing has happened? So as the day went on, I found myself losing myself in the moment, and the guilt began to fade away. Our trip came to an end, and I knew that I had to go back to my boring house, plus my husband was coming back, so I had to go. When I got home, I had found my husband already back, which was a shock to me because I didn't expect him to be back earlier, since I had also tried to be back earlier than him. Well, I guess he had beat the traffic. He asked where I was coming from, so I told him that I had gone to a night away with the girls. But I left the guy's part aside because if I had mentioned it, hell would have broken loose. Sometimes my husband and I would spend our weekends together, but it wasn't fun because he would always watch golf games and I would be sitting with him reading a book, which was purely boring for me. My mind was thinking about the trip that me and the girls had. I'd been feeling neglected by my husband for quite some time, even if he was around. He was always busy with work and his golfing games never seemed to have time for me. I felt like I was just a mere obligation to him, rather than a beloved partner. I won't lie and say the girls' night was boring because it wasn't. It was actually full of life and fun. I enjoyed every moment of it, and I wished I could turn back the hands of time and go back to that night. Months passed. My husband had been too occupied with work and his golfing games. To tell the truth, golf really bores me. There is actually no fun in it. It shows that it's a game for rich people. So one day, a guy from the trip texted me on Instagram. I was so shocked about why he would send me a text on my Instagram. But I didn't ask him anything, I just replied to his messages, which were actually a very good distraction because I was somehow bored at home. So he had asked me to accompany him to his friend's party. I hesitated at first because I didn't know what I would tell my husband. But God came through for me, and I really needed to get some air and let loose a little. I had been cooped up in the house for way too long. I had been itching to let loose and have some fun, but I didn't want to do anything that would jeopardize our marriage. So that weekend was a great opportunity for me to let loose a little. As soon as my husband was gone, I decided to take advantage of the situation. I put on my favorite dress, did my hair and makeup, and waited for Harold to come and fetch me because that was the plan. When we got there, I felt the vibe already. There were so many people, and I guess it was friends and maybe colleagues. I spotted his friends that I had met during that night. They were with their partners who were very much friendly and full of fun. The music was blasting. Everyone was having their good time, minding their own business, and that was what I really needed. It felt so liberating to be able to be myself without worrying about what my husband would think. The next day, I woke up feeling a bit hungover and regretful. I had a bit too much to drink the night before, and I was worried that my husband would notice when he got back. But as I looked in the mirror, I saw a confident and carefree version of myself staring back. I realized that I didn't need to be perfect all the time, and that it was okay to let loose and have fun. Over the next few days, I continued to explore my newfound freedom whenever my husband was either at work or went golfing. I continued chatting and going out with Gary. He made me feel so much alive, as he also introduced me to new clubs around Woodlands. I knew from there that I had found my real self. I had finally found the person I had always wanted to be. Yes, my friend Prudence and I would go out, but she respected my husband, so they didn't want to be on his bad books. My friends treat Mike like he was a god or something. Sometimes I would think she was fooling him or me to think that she respected my marriage. One happy morning, I woke up happy and in a great mood that weekend. Simon and I had a very steamy and loving, intimate moment the previous night. We had a lot of lovemaking. So I decided to wake up early to prepare a nice breakfast for my husband so we would get ready for the day, as we had planned to go out together to pamper ourselves and try to bring back the spark that we once had before we got married. I had planned everything, you know. I was so happy that I was going to spend time with my husband after a long time of him always going out. So that morning he came down the stairs wearing his golfing clothes and came down with his kit. I didn't understand why he was wearing that, so I asked why he was wearing his golfing clothes while we had plans for the day. He just gave me a very lousy excuse and told me that his golf buddies had texted him and told him about the game that was taking place on the very same day that was supposed to be our day. My mood just instantly went down the drain. I was so angry at him, but I was also angry at myself for thinking that Mike was actually going to choose me for one, and not his golfing games or his buddies. I mean, why would someone promise to spend time with you and even reassure you that the day was only for us, and we were going to switch off our phones so that we would not get any disturbances? But his big head switched on his phone and got his buddy's message about a certain game that was taking place just when we had planned something else. He had reassured me that he would be available for lunch and dinner. Later on, I had a hope that Mike would have been back and we would continue with our day like we had planned. So I decided to cook all of his favorites for dinner. I had really missed my husband, and that time was the only perfect time to tell my husband Mike about my desires. So I prepared everything and even texted to come back home earlier. I knew that when I deliver my issue of desires, he would not act like any normal person would, but I just didn't know the consequences that would come with the fact that I had told him about my desires. He came back earlier just like I had asked him to. So we ate over a light conversation, and I knew that it was time to drop the bomb and address the elephant in the room, with the hope that he would somehow understand why I needed what I needed. So after we had dinner, I asked to speak to him before he went to bed. So I told him that I really wanted to grow old with him and start a family, I told him and reassured him that what I was about to tell him didn't mean that there was something that had changed between us, because there wasn't anything. I literally said, "I've been thinking." That's how I began. My voice was hesitant yet determined. "I love you more than words can express, Mike, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." His eyes softened, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "I feel the same way, Ronnie." That's how he would call my name. "You're my everything." I then took a deep breath, gathering my courage. But I also felt like there's a part of me that's restless, that craves something more. I want to explore, to experience different things, but I don't want to lose you. I want an open relationship. Mike's expression faltered, surprise mingling with uncertainty. "An open relationship?" I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. "Yes, I want us to be honest with each other, to communicate openly about our desires and needs. I still want you in my life, Mike, but I need the freedom to grow, to discover who I am outside of our relationship." Silence stretched between us. The weight of what I had said really made things difficult for me. Plus, Mike just went on a quiet mode. Finally, Mike spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can do that, Ronnie. I thought we were meant to be together, just us against the world." Tears welled up in my eyes as she reached for Mike's hand. It was harder than I had anticipated. "Please, Mike, this doesn't change how much I love you, but I need this. I need to explore this part of myself." Mike roughly withdrew his hand, his gaze distant. "I need some time to think, Veronica. I can't promise anything right now." I knew that our relationship was hanging down the hill, so I had to expect anything from Mike. So I first dropped the bomb of the fact that I wanted us to explore new ventures. So I suggested that we would open our relationship to any opportunities that would come with that statement. He calmly asked why I wanted to open our relationship, and I knew that when he was that calm, it meant only one thing. He was angry, and I should expect him to do or say anything because of his anger. I furthered by telling him that I was ready to start our family, and I won't lie, I was ready to give him the child that he had always wanted. I basically told him that if he agrees that we open our relationship, then we would or should start planning for our child. After I told him all about my desires and what can actually help our marriage to have that spark. Our marriage was already in shambles, already in a very hard rocking place, so I had to find a solution that would help us. He didn't want to hear anything after that. He suspected that I had been cheating on him and assumed that since I wanted us to open our marriage or relationship, I was already cheating on him. I tried explaining everything in detail to him, but he just didn't want to hear it, to the point that he ended up calling me names and told me that if he ever found out that I had cheated on him, he would make sure that I suffer for the rest of my life. I just didn't understand why he was suddenly angry for addressing the underlying problem that we were facing, and told him about my desires. We had a very heated argument that led us to even go to bed angry at each other. I really thought Mike was being unfair and inconsiderate of my needs, but I couldn't tell that because he was already enraged and ready to attack. I gave him some space to at least digest what I had just told him, hoping that he would wake up the following day better, and we would have a civil conversation like adults and married couples. The following day, he woke up early and prepared for work. I tried making a conversation with him, but he didn't want anything to do with me because he didn't even eat his breakfast that I had made for him. I really thought that Mike was actually very childish and inconsiderate. I mean, why would I stay in an unhappy marriage? Or maybe let me not say unhappy but unsatisfied marriage while I knew that I had to address the issue with my partner. I actually respected him enough to cheat and open my marriage or relationship without his permission. That day, I decided to just go out to get some fresh air, and maybe by later Mike would come home calm so that we would continue with the conversation. Later on, Mike was back from work, so Mike came to the living room looking like he was ready to kill. His face and body language was full of rage, I couldn't even think that he might have found out about my abomination. So he looked at me with eyes full of rage, hurt, and disappointment. He asked to speak with me on the side. Without thinking about what would have made him so angry, I followed him to our bedroom. When we got there, he threw a phone at me. I got confused about why he would throw a phone at me, so I looked at him hoping to get the answer I had been asking myself. Instead, he told me to press play on the video that was posted on Twitter, so I did as told without thinking again because I wanted to see what had made my husband angry. When I pressed play, I got the shock of my life. Harold had posted a video of him and me making out at his friend's house. Worst part, the video was even trending. I was trembling and shaking. I was lost for words. I couldn't even utter the apology because I didn't know what was happening. I had thought that nothing had happened between Gary and I, so the video really confused me, and why do I not remember anything? The way Mike was super upset and asked if that was the reason why I had wanted to open our marriage so that I could do those nasty things. My heart was beating so fast like I was having either a panic attack or a minor heart attack. What made my blood rush like that was the fact that I didn't remember anything, and who would have been that heatless to post such a video on social media? I felt my reputation, my dignity, and my image being ruined. I just didn't know how to react to the video, so I just decided to go to the park to unwind and at least try to calm down. When I went back to the house after like 4 or 5 hours that I had spent in the park trying to digest and think about the video that was trending, and the fact that I didn't remember anything, I wanted to know who would have leaked that video. I knew that I needed to find out. But the revelations really shocked me to the core. Okay, so when I got home, Mike wasn't there. I called out his name all around the house and even tried to call him, but nothing. His phone was suddenly off and it was taking me straight to voicemail. I left him a lot of messages, voice messages, and text messages. He actually left me a letter that stated that I should sleep with one eye because I had made him and he was going to destroy me, which got me really scared because I didn't know what he was referring to and what he would do. Never trust an angry lion because it can bite you roughly to a point that you would eventually find yourself useless and want to end things or disappear. And with the words that I had said, Mike vanished from Woodlands, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and shattered dreams. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but there was no sign of him. I searched every corner of our small town, hoping for a glimpse of his familiar face, but he remained elusive, as if swallowed by the vastness of the world beyond. I tried calling again, but still the same results. My mind was racing and my heart was pounding so much I felt myself suffocating, but I knew that I had to first find Mike so that I would explain to him what had happened the following night. I tried tracking his phone using my computer because we had that agreement of tracking each other's whereabouts, using either our phones or car trackers. When I checked, I found out that his phone was off and his car was actually in the garage, meaning he had left the car. 2 weeks later, I had even given up on looking for Mike. I was worried about him. I won't lie because he had left without saying anything besides the threatening letter that he left. So I decided to go to the shops and buy some house essentials and groceries. As I was busy putting things in a trolley, I bumped into Gary. I got furious once again and confronted him about the video. He told me that his friend was the one who had leaked the video with help of his new girlfriend, Prudence. I just couldn't believe it, I had really thought that Prudence had my back, but clearly she was just a snake in a sheep's skin. Another thing that made me scared was the fact that I knew that Mike's sister had seen the video, and I was sure that the parents also knew, so I had destroyed the kind of relationship that I had with Mike's parents. Later on, I decided to go to Mike's home to look for him and apologize for the heartache that I had caused the family and the shame that I had caused my husband. I didn't know what I would say to Mike's sister. I just opted to apologize to the parents only. Unfortunately, when I got there, Mike was not home. His mother told me that he hadn't been at home for a month, so they didn't know where he had gone. I got really worried about Mike and felt guilty of the things that had happened. Later on, about like a week later, I received a notification stating that someone had withdrawn money from my offshore account and my life savings account. Mind you, that time I didn't even notice that my cards were gone. I panicked and thought that I was being scammed or something. As if that wasn't enough, a truck came. Well, a big truck, and repossessed the cars that were in the garage. My car along with Mike's. I asked why they were taking the cars. They told me that they were reported as stolen and they were no longer getting paid for. I just couldn't believe it, I tried calling Mike again, but it was still not going through until I decided to just give up. I went straight into a depressing state and I really thought I was going to lose myself at that time. After the cars were gone, I received divorce papers stating that the owner of the house wanted me gone within 2 days. My health was not giving me any hope because everything was just too much. I had lost the only person who had shown me genuine love. I was happy in my marriage, but my greed and desires clouded all the good things that Mike had done for me. I knew that I had to think of where I was going to go because I had no relatives in Singapore, so I had to try and make means to get home in England. Luckily, Mike had taught me to keep some cash in a safe place just in case I get in trouble or something happens. So I took that money and bought a plane ticket. I just couldn't stay any longer in Singapore. I had thought that I was done with everything that made me move to Singapore. I had gone there to study, and I did with the help of Mike. I completed my master's degree in psychology. I left Singapore with a heavy heart. I had never thought that my desires would actually lead me to that kind of stage in life. I lost the love of my life. He just vanished from our town, and I really wanted to know where he was and if he was okay. That's what happened to me. I laid my heart on the line, expressing my hopes and needs. Instead of understanding or discussing it further, he chose to vanish from our town without a word. It left me questioning everything, the sincerity of his feelings, the strength of our connection. I was left with a mix of emotions, hurt, confusion, and a tinge of anger. But through it all, I realized the importance of being true to myself and my needs, even if it means facing difficult outcomes. As time passed, I learned to live with the ache in my heart, the bittersweet reminder of a love that was once so pure and unyielding. And though Mike was no longer by my side, I held on to the memories that we shared, grateful for the time we had together, however fleeting it may have been. I really thought Mike would understand my problems, but I now regret even opening my mouth and confessing about my desires. I really don't know where to start looking for Mike because I feel like I owe him an apology for the heartache that I had caused. Do you guys think he can maybe forgive me and give me a chance to at least mend our relationship after what had happened? I truly regret what I had done to Mike. I need any advice that you can give me. Please assist me. I'm drowning, really.
I have to share this. I got divorce papers because my paranoid husband thinks I am cheating on him. Hey, people of Reddit. I am Kelly, 28, F, and have been married to Jason, 32, M, for over 3 years now. I never thought I would be in a situation like this, but here I am, feeling lost, hurt, and utterly confused. My paranoid husband, who I have loved and supported for years, suddenly accused me of cheating and has sent me divorce papers. I don't know what to do and could really use some advice or even just some words of encouragement. I have been noticing that Jason was a bit off for the past few months. He was constantly checking my phone, questioning my actions, and fantasizing about scenarios where I could be betraying him. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it was just stress or the result of external pressures. However, things escalated quickly, and before I knew it, he accused me of having an affair. I have done everything I can to reassure him of my faithfulness and love for him. But unfortunately, his paranoia seems to outweigh any evidence or logic I present. I have assured him that there is no one else and that his suspicions are unfounded. But it is as if he has made up his mind to believe otherwise. And I agree that I had given him enough reason to have his doubts about me having an affair. There was one instance in the past where I had messed up and cheated on him, but it was a long time ago, and there is no way that he can hold it against me now. We are all humans, and we do make mistakes and learn from them. I made a mistake in the past because I was immature, irresponsible, and did not value my relationship with him as much as I do now. Just because I smile at someone and talk to them in a very nice manner does not mean that I'm trying to sleep with them. It's ridiculous to think that way. There might be numerous reasons why I would have to be talking to someone. Being kind and generous is just being human. You can't use it against me. I admitted my mistake and I apologized for it. I have even resented myself for my behavior and tried to make amends ever since to be the loyal and loving wife. Not a single day since then had I begged for forgiveness for my actions. I have never even had the thought of having any other man in my life. I have no idea how to make him believe that there was nothing going on between me or any other person, because he's the only one that I truly love and care about. Trust me, I learned the hard way to be 100% involved in a relationship. I understood the place he was coming from, as it was not too long ago that we discussed how he would be willing to forgive me and trust me going forward after the affair came to light. I had given him every reason to have his doubts, but every day I had to justify my actions on why I did what I did. Why did I talk to a certain person? It was getting a little too much. I could sense his skepticism and uncertainty, given the circumstances. However, constantly having to explain my intentions and defend my choices became overwhelming. The need to justify every conversation I had with specific individuals was becoming increasingly burdensome. We sat down and had a deep and meaningful conversation about how I would not be repeating the same mistake and how much I value this relationship. I thought that we had a very transparent discussion and cleared up any misunderstandings that we had about me having an affair with anybody for that matter. The conclusion seemed to be very positive, and he was willing to agree and accept that he had overreacted and trusted me with all his heart. Well, that was the impression he gave me until I woke up one day and received divorce papers. How could he do this to me after all that we discussed and bored our hearts out, confessing how much we loved each other just 2 days ago? Is he even the same person that I revealed my true feelings for? This emotional roller coaster has taken a significant toll on our relationship. His trust in me has completely evaporated, and mine in him has been severely shaken. I have attempted to seek professional help, suggesting couples counseling or therapy sessions for both of us, but he has been unwilling to participate, claiming that it would all be a waste of time and money. Just recently, everything was going great for the both of us. Things were slowly becoming normal, and we were soon reaching that phase of being a happily married couple. Jason unexpectedly served me with divorce papers. It feels like a punch in the gut, and I can't help but feel devastated and betrayed. It's not just the accusations themselves that hurt, but also the fact that he would take such an extreme step without even trying to work through this together. I'm now left questioning myself and our entire relationship. Was I truly blind to any red flags? Did I miss any signs of his paranoia or insecurities before they spiraled out of control? I never thought I would be in this situation, and it's disheartening to see years of love and trust suddenly disintegrate. As I navigate this difficult time, I'm reaching out to you, Reddit, for guidance and support. Has anyone experienced something similar? How did you cope with it? Is there anything else I can do to salvage our marriage? Or should I start preparing myself for the possibility of divorce? I understand that this is a complex issue, and I'm eager to hear your perspectives and insights. I want to emphasize that I am not looking for criticism or ridicule, but heartfelt advice and understanding from those who have been through similar experiences or have expertise in this area. Thank you for taking the time to read my story. I appreciate any guidance or support you can offer during this challenging time. TLDR. My husband has become increasingly paranoid about me cheating, despite my constant reassurances. He recently served me with divorce papers, and I am feeling lost and hurt, seeking advice and support on how to cope or salvage our relationship. Update. I tried to get a hold of him so that we could talk about all this. He couldn't be serious enough to send me divorce papers and expect me to just sign them without even having a discussion. I agree I did slip up once in my life, but never after that. I have regretted that decision and did everything in my power to make sure that this relationship becomes our strength. I know that since the day he sent me the divorce papers through mail, he has been actively trying to avoid any confrontation from my end. We live in the same house, but he has been dodging me every day to make sure not to have this conversation. I have never seen a person being so paranoid not to even trust their own instincts. I decided that I would just give one last try to talk to him before I give up, because there was no point in staying with a person who does not trust you. I sent him a text asking him to talk to me just one last time so that we both get closure if we will be ending our relationship. It was a fair thing to ask, since closure was really important for the both of us to move on in our lives. Surprisingly, he understood that it was better we have a talk before we decide to part ways. Finally, I got a hold of him and sat down to talk about the divorce papers that he sent. Naturally, I was very upset with the way he was acting about the entire situation because there was actually nothing for him to react to. There was no affair going on. There was no evidence. There was no nothing, so I had no idea why he had to act this way. I wanted to be very calm and patient in my approach, asking him why he thought that I was having an affair because I don't think I have done anything to upset him or give him the wrong impression. He did not give me a proper explanation, as he just said that he knows and he feels that I am having an affair and he just wants to get it over with. His responses were not really helping me with this conversation because there was no way I would like to carry out this conversation on my own if he was just here as a formality. I was losing my patience, so I told him that this is the last time I was going to ask him what led him to believe that I was having an affair, and if he was so sure, does he know the person I was having an affair with? He told me that he has seen me talking to a few of my colleagues, giggling over silly things, trying to make a pass on them. And he has learned from his previous mistake that he is going to take action before things go out of hand. Before he reaches a stage of denial, he would want to get it all of it and not feel like a loser before getting fooled by me twice. I did not understand why he was so adamant on believing that I was having an affair. I tried to be calm and put myself in his shoes to try and understand what could be the reason for him not to trust me and be fixated on the idea of me having an affair. However, I tried to look at it. I could not find any reasonable explanation for him to behave this way. I finally decided to give in, as there was no point in buying new furniture for a broken house. I finally signed the divorce papers and gave them to him, but told him that he was soon going to regret it once he discovered how wrong he was about all this. He just smiled at me and told me that he was not interested in any free advice from people who themselves cannot handle their own relationships. As I was driving by one day, I saw Jason walking hand in hand with another girl towards the church. They were smiling and talking animatedly, and I could tell that this was more than friendship. It had only been 2 weeks since I had moved out of the house after signing the divorce papers, so there was no way that Jason would have gotten so close to someone else in the span of 2 weeks. There was something that I was missing, and I decided to find out. I followed them to the church and sat myself closer to the exit so that they could not see me. I followed them the entire day to make sense of the entire situation. Was she the reason why Jason was so adamant on getting a divorce without a valid reason? If this was true, then it would mean that not me, but Jason was the one who had been cheating on me. But he made it look like I was the one cheating so that he could get a divorce without feeling bad or guilty about having an affair. All of this was sounding so messed up, and my head started aching, thinking about all the different reasons why Jason would have been so adamant I'm getting a divorce. I decided that I could not live with ifs and buts, and I had to know for sure the actual reason behind divorce. I deserved to know why my almost perfect married life came to an end, and I needed to know the truth, however painful it was. I followed them home and banged on the door, asking Jason to open up. He looked very puzzled to see me in front of the house and demanded that I leave. I told him I would not be leaving until and unless he tells me the actual reason why he was so adamant to get a divorce. He laughed and asked me to move on and stop disturbing his life, as in hand no interest in having any sort of conversation with me. He was about to shut the door on my face when I told him that I saw him with a girl at the church. He told me to get a life and stop snooping around on him. I asked him point blank if she was the reason he was so adamant to get a divorce. He told me congratulations for finally figuring it out. He told me that he was very thankful to me for having this affair, which helped him to finally meet the love of his life, whom he was going to marry very soon. I now understood that he had been having an affair all along, and he gave me that wicked smile without a reply, with which I could tell that all this had been going on for a really long time. I told him that he was the one cheating on me, and very cunningly made me agree to getting a divorce without letting me know the actual reason. He kept smiling and telling me that I was the reason that it was all happening. If I would not have cheated and been loyal, there would have been no need for him to go and find someone else to cheat with. He told me that all this was my karma, which was coming back to me. He then shut the door on my face, leaving me standing there motionless in disbelief of all the revelations that I had just come across. I was completely devastated, to say the least. I had never expected Jason to have an affair and then take such an extreme step of getting a divorce to be together with the person he was having an affair with. To be frank, there would be no way I would have possibly been okay after knowing that he was having an affair when we were married. I completely understand what he must have gone through after he learned about my affair, and how much he must have hated himself for not being a good husband that must have led to me having an affair. I could not control my emotions and started sobbing uncontrollably after being in the same shoes as him. Though we were not officially married anymore, it still hurt knowing that he had been having an affair for the longest time, and I had no clue about it. I could relate to him, but there was no way that I could forgive him for it. The pain of betrayal and the realization of our shared experiences overwhelmed me. I couldn't help but question how our relationship had deteriorated to this point. I went home and sat in a dark corner, imagining how my life turned from a romantic novel to a horror movie within the span of a few weeks. Jason was someone I could trust with my life, and he was the one who ended up cheating on me. I do not completely blame him for it, as I was the one who broke his trust first. I would never take an affair so far as to divorce him and start a new life with that person. That was crossing the line, and he did exactly that. I don't know what I was more upset about. Was it his affair or that he divorced me for a mere mistress? It was hurting me real bad that I got dumped for a mere affair. I was completely broken, and I sat there for hours thinking about my past and my life with Jason. It never was unbearable to the point of me taking an extreme step as to have an affair. I don't know if I should trust Jason and his reasons that it was all because of me. It could be his guilt that was not letting him accept that all of this was his fault, and he was just trying to push the blame on me to make himself feel better. After crying my eyes out and blaming myself for almost 3 hours, I decided that there was no point in blaming myself for ending a relationship which was already broken. I decided that I would focus on myself and my well-being and stop thinking about Jason or with the new girl in his life. Update. It has been 3 months since I have closed the chapter of my broken marriage with Jason and moved on with my life. I recently started working at a new place which was very lively, and that helped me uplift my moods and spirits. I was enjoying working there until I was invited to one of my colleagues' weddings. I had very little interaction with her, so I was not very keen on even attending the wedding. She looked very excited and always talked about how much her fiancé loved and cared about her and all the nice stuff. Sometimes I felt like telling her that all of this does not last very long, but I do not want to bring down her spirits. After all, it was her big day, so I wanted her to be as excited as she could be. A few days before the wedding, she came in and personally handed over the invitations that she handmade for all the guests tending the wedding. I thought that it was a really sweet gesture. I put the card in my bag as I was still busy with a lot of work to learn and making myself independent. After I went home and was sipping my coffee, I remembered about the invitation and pulled out the card from my bag. It was a very cute-looking card, and I could see that she put in a lot of effort and thought into making it. I opened it to take a look at the details when I noticed the name of the groom. Could it be a coincidence that there was another Jason with the same surname, or was he the Jason and I was thinking about? The invitation fell from my hands as a reflex, and I was numb for a few seconds. I frantically pulled out my phone and started searching for her on Instagram. I started scrolling through all her pictures to see if there was any picture of her with her fiancé there that could confirm if he was the Jason I was married to. There was no picture, and I felt a burst of anxiety, unable to do anything in this situation. I don't know why I had gone back through the time when I would sit in a dark corner and cry thinking about Jason's betrayal. I thought I was way past that, and I had come a long way forgetting everything about Jason and his affair. I went and walked the next day to the mine to find out who Isabel was marrying. As I wasn't close to her, I did not find the right to talk to her directly, so I decided to ask around if anyone has an idea about the groom. I tried my luck at lunch, asking everyone if they had met Isabella's fiancé and would be going to the wedding. One of them mentioned that he had seen him once or twice when he had come to pick up Isabel. Nobody had a picture, so I did not know if I was being paranoid for no reason, or was I right about what my gut was saying. I couldn't make up my mind if I should go to the wedding and see for myself, or just let it go as I had already moved on from Jason. I mean, there was no way Jason would be marrying a sweet girl like Isabel, and there was also the fact that she was almost 8 years younger than him. Not that it mattered, but I do not want to see Jason with someone young and beautiful. I just couldn't stop thinking about how Jason could be happy after lying and cheating on me. There was just 1 week left for the wedding, and with no leads on Isabel or her fiancé, I decided to attend the wedding and see for myself. I went to the wedding making sure that I looked like a bomb. If it turned out to be the Jason I was married to, then I wanted him to look at me and regret what he lost in his life. Somewhere in my heart, I was hoping that it would not be Jason and some other guy that was marrying Isabel. I met a few colleagues and we made our way inside. When I saw Jason standing at the altar waiting for his bride with a big smile plastered on his lips, I could not contain myself, and I stumbled and fell. I got up and blamed the heels for this debacle, but deep down I knew that it was my heart that was sinking. I could not see Jason marrying someone else right in front of my eyes, so I decided to take off. I went home and drowned myself in alcohol, and the image of Jason smiling and waiting for Isabel kept replaying in my mind. I had switched off my phone since everybody had been calling me asking why I had left before the ceremony. Of course, I could not tell them the actual reason, so I just lied that I was feeling a little under the weather. I applied for a leave of absence for the next few days and holed myself in my apartment. The only thing I did was eat, drink alcohol, and sleep. I did not know that Jason would affect me so much, even after all these months. It has been a month since Jason and Isabel's wedding, but there has been no improvement in my sorrow. I go to work feeling very lethargic. I come home and drink to myself. I don't feel like doing anything as I feel so lonely. I have no one to talk to. I am not sure if I need help in getting out of the situation I am in. I decided that maybe writing things down will make me feel better. I might not even post this and just keep it to myself. If I do decide to post this, it is a call of help for anyone reading this to suggest what I could do to get me out of this slumber. I would like to feel normal again and do things that I want to do without forcing myself into it. To anyone who has read so far, please give me a few insights on how to overcome this guilt and betrayal that I have been overwhelmed with. How should I get closure and move on with my life? I wish I could forget everything and start afresh. Please help me with any tips that I can use to start over. Thank you all for being so kind and supportive. Your help has made me come this far. I am hoping that it will help me sail through again. Counting on your love and support.